Okay, welcome everybody. I decided to record a video instead of giving you a lot of written instructions, and I hope that that is easier for you to follow along with here. But we're going to explore a couple of new things in Python and just try to get the ideas of how that programming is working. So there is an online spot, a website where you can try out some of these bits of code as well and follow along. If you don't have that technology today, just try and follow along with the video and hopefully understand what I'm saying. These bits here, you'll have an activity that will that you'll work at tomorrow, and some of these bits here will be useful to help understand how that activity is getting structured. So I'm going to get right into the Python here. So yesterday we had our test.py where we looked at just kind of declaring some variables, where we had some things like integers, floats, strings, and booleans. Those were our main variables we saw from the Arduino section. And we noticed that we didn't have to actually tell Python which kind of variables those were. It kind of auto-detected and just based off of what we put in the variable. We also saw things like the print function, which kind of writes things to the terminal, which shows up down below. And we also looked at how to write a basic if statement to kind of parse out different scenarios for our code and what would happen there. Everything with these code blocks, with the if statement, we had kind of what we saw with the Arduino before, but there were a few differences. The main one is that we didn't have curly brackets to mark the start and end of code. In Python, there's a colon, and then it just kind of relies on the indentation. Indenting your code is one of the main ways programmers will organize things. So while Python tries to keep everything really friendly and readable for beginners, it will force you to indent your code properly in order for it to run, because it will just not run properly if you try to write something like an if statement without the proper indentation. Okay, so I'm going to start a new file today, and I'll just maybe call this, let's call this input function.py. That's the main thing we're going to learn about at the beginning. So I'm just going to start with a comment about what we are covering here. So we want to explore how the input function, and again, if you're following along and trying to type, remember you never have to type out the comments, because I do type quite a bit faster, I think, than most of you. So we're going to explore how the input function works. We are going to then have to bring up converting variable data types. That's something that we'll have to handle after the input function. So this is, for example, like converting, we'll look at specifically converting a string to a integer, because that can help your code from throwing an error. We're also going to take a look at printing on multiple lines. So there are some special characters you can, multiple lines. There are some special characters that you can put into the print statement so that you can do a line break and stuff like that. So we'll explore how that looks. And then I'm also going to introduce you to a while loop here. Since tomorrow, it will kind of depend on that. And that's a really important part of how games work, since we're going to be working toward using a game engine. A while loop is pretty much always going to be running when there's a game going on, because it's always going to be checking for things repeatedly. So we'll do a quick little introduction for that today. All right, so we're going to start with the, we're going to start by maybe declaring any variables that we need. Maybe just with the input function, that's going to be where we get our variable for the most part. So we'll just get into that. So what the input function does, it looks like this. So when we ask Python to run this, it's going to pause. It pauses the program and waits for the user to type in something. So this doesn't store that information by default. Okay, we must store the input as a variable. So if we want to hang on to that information that the user types in, which we usually do, we need to make sure we start by making that a variable. So I'm going to have a variable. We'll just call it, we'll call this text in. So that's going to be our variable name, and we're going to set that equal to input. Okay, so there's no semicolons in Python. All that's going to happen here is that when I run this program, the computer is going to ask us to type something in, and then it's going to store that as text in. Maybe just to check that that is storing properly, I'm going to print text in right afterward. So it's just going to spit out the information back that I just typed in. So it's going to ask me for the input. Input is going to get stored in this variable, text in, and then right afterwards I'm just printing text in. So I'm just checking that that input is being stored properly in this variable called text in. So let's run that. So the terminal opens up underneath. I'm just going to make it take a little less room here. So right now the input is working. So one thing that you can kind of see here is like, I didn't know what to do. Maybe that's what you're saying. Usually before an input, we would usually print out some instructions first. So once I finish this, just to check, I'm going to put a print statement above the input to kind of say what I'm expecting the user to do. Otherwise, they have no instructions and they will be very lost. But I'm going to put in, it's expecting some text in. So I'm going to say hello. So I'm going to type that in, press enter. And then right away, we get another hello printed out. So that kind of confirms that the input was getting stored as text in, and then text in got printed out. So that's working properly here. Okay, so I'm going to write a print statement here, and we're just going to say, maybe we'll print, please tell me your name. So I'm printing out a set of text, so I have to wrap that in quotation marks. Please type in your name. So we'll just run that one more time, and we'll just kind of see how the user experience is more clear once we have some instructions. So when we press play, please type in your name. Okay, now it's a little bit more clear that we're supposed to type something. My name is Mr. Rose, and then it just spits out back to me, Mr. Rose. Why don't we take this time now to actually build a sentence here. So rather than just printing back out text in, let's create a new variable. Let's say message. This is a new variable. It's going to be equal to two things. We're going to say hello. So we're going to use like a join block, like what we did with Scratch, where you could mix in some pre-mixed text and a variable. So how you do that in Python is use the plus sign. So I'm going to have to put in that extra space. We've seen that before in Scratch when we did like the Mad Libs or the phone message assignment, that when you join text together, it really does just squish them together. So unless I want hello, Mr. Rose to show up all like squished together, I do need to make sure I put in one space there. So I'm going to say hello plus, and I'm not going to say Mr. Rose because I need to make sure that this will still work no matter what the user puts in. So I'm just going to say hello, and then it's plus text in. So whatever the user puts in, it's just going to get swapped in into this message. Okay, so this works just like that join block where we had the text and then you swapped in your variable name. It's exactly how that's working here in Python. So then we're going to now print out the message. So following what's going on here, we have an instruction, please type in your name. The user's input is getting stored in this variable called text in. And then we have a new variable called message, which is combining hello with text in. And I'm going to add one extra thing here. So I'm going to do another plus because I do want maybe a complete sentence here. So we're just going to add a period. So it's adding hello, and it's going to be whatever I type in. I'm going to use Mr. Rose again, but then it's going to add a period at the end and then print that message. So let's play this. So Mr. Rose. Oh, whoops, I'm not in the terminal. I got to click in the right spot. This is my input, Mr. Rose, and now it spits back to me, hello, Mr. Rose. So coming from scratch, right away we could do like that Mad Lib assignment again, or the phone message assignment, using these bits of code. But we'll maybe go a little bit further than that. Or not further, we'll go in a different direction. Okay, so let's take a look at, that's basically how the input function is working. Let's look at printing on multiple lines. Let's maybe say that message we want it to be more than one line. So let's start by using in this special character. So if you want a new line, you use the character \n, or is it /n? Yeah, /n. When Python sees /n, it's going to automatically make a new line. So what we're going to do here is just adjust this to say, hello, Mr. Rose, period, then new line. And it's just going to say, I hope you have a great day. So if you do want to print and do a line break, you can do it all in one here. So let's just make sure that works, just in case I got the / wrong and the slash was the other way. So we'll see the same thing again. So please type in your name. I'm going to choose a different name this time. Let's say, let's do Mr. T. So now we say, hello, Mr. T. Oh, that didn't work. /n. Okay, so let's try the \. Try that again. Mr. T. There we go. Okay, so we have the new line, and you can see the formatting is maybe a little bit different there. It is breaking it up. Hello, Mr. T. I hope you have a great day. But we have that extra space going on here. So just like how I intentionally added the extra space after the hello, after the new line, I think I actually want to avoid that extra space. It looks weird in the code right now, but that's going to bring that I back to the front, and that's actually what I want here. So I'm going to press play again. Please type in your name. We'll use Mr. Rose again now. Hello, Mr. Rose. I hope you have a great day. And that's kind of what we want. So printing on multiple lines, we just have to make sure you add that extra character in. So it's the \n, and the / is the one that's directly above your enter key on the keyboard. Okay, the other /, the going in the other direction, is the one next to your shift on the right side of the keyboard. Okay, so \, the one above the enter, then n. That's your special character if you want to print on multiple lines. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to do now is, I'm going to comment this out. So I'll add a hashtag in front of this code right now, because I want to talk a little bit more about the input. So sometimes the input that we get from the user might be a number, or it might not be a string. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, just like how we had the type, we used this function yesterday to check on what variable type was there. I'm going to do a print, but I want to check on the type of text in. Okay, so I've got a couple of sets of brackets here. Overall, we've got the print starting and ending where it's yellow. And then on the inside, we're printing out the type of text in. So then the purple brackets, or the pink ones, are wrapping the text in. So no matter what I put in, so I'm going to put in Mr. Rose again. Please type in your name. And you're seeing that is showing up as a string. Okay, what if we change these instructions to say, what if we were playing like a number game? Please type in a number from 1 to 10. If those were the instructions, and we run that, the user's going to put in, say, maybe 5. But it's important to understand that no matter what the user inputs, Python's always going to default treat that like a string. Okay, so that can cause problems if we want to do math later. Okay, for example, if we wanted to do something like a calculator, maybe we just wanted to add 9. Let's make a variable called answer. So answer is going to be equal to Let's change this from text in. Let's call this number. So answer is equal to number plus 1. Let's say we wanted to do some math. And we wanted to say just whatever the person puts in, we just want to add 1 to the number. And we're going to print out answer here, not the type. Okay, so to kind of review, we changed the instruction. Now we actually want in a number. So we changed our variable name so that it reads a bit better. So the number is equal to the input that the user puts in. Then we're going to say there's some answer. The answer is just the number plus 1. So if I put in 5, the computer should put out 6, and that's what it's going to print out. So that's what I would like to happen, but that's not what's going to happen. So I'm going to run this. Please type in a number. If I put in 5, now we're getting an error. Okay, so if we look at what happens here, after I put in the number 5, we get this trace back stuff. There's something going on here. But the main thing we want to focus on here is that Python just told us that there is an error. It's a type error. We can only concatenate. So concatenate means it's the word for adding 2 strings together. What we did before when we did this hello plus the text in, have a great day, we were creating a string from different pieces. That in computer language is called concatenating. So that's a new term. We won't always use it in class, but we're building a string together and we're concatenating. You've actually done this in Scratch already when you did those Mad Lib assignments and stuff like that. But that's the technical term. So we do have an error here in Python, and that is the main problem here. So we can't actually get it to say 6 because the number that was put in is the string. So it's like 5 with quotation marks. Even though it is a number, the program is treating it like a word. So we need to make sure before we try to add 1 and do some math, we need to actually tell Python specifically, okay, this input that's coming in, this is actually a number. Okay, it's not a string. So how we can do that is we can convert. I'll write a comment here, maybe above. We can convert data types in Python. So what we're going to use is the int function. So we can use int and then put something in the brackets, and that will take whatever we put in the brackets and tell Python, make that an integer, please. So what we want to do is we're going to have an extra set of brackets here. We're going to say int. Maybe I'll just delete this so that we can build it from scratch. So because there's going to be one thing inside of the other. We want number to be int. So what do we want to convert to an int? It's that input that the user is putting in. So we're going to put input and then. So we've got, again, 2 layers. We're overall changing something to an integer. That's marked by the yellow brackets. And on the inside, we're still asking for input now. So when I put in 5, rather than it coming in as, in quotes, 5, it's going to now be changed to the number 5. So then when we try and do 5 plus 1, we should be able to get 6 now. So let's run this here. Okay, please type in a number from 1 to 10. We'll put 5, press enter, and now it was adding appropriately. So we were able to get rid of that error. Okay, and there are other ways you can convert different things, but this is the most common one that we'll see just for what we're doing today, because if we're trying to do a number, say a guessing game or something, we would want to make sure that we can handle the number as it is. Okay, so now we have looked at kind of converting that string to an integer. We have explored how kind of the input function is working, and we have explored printing on multiple lines. Okay, so what we're going to do is now use this while loop to make kind of a number guessing game. We're going to, maybe I'll just add some comments here. I'll put another hashtag here since we're going to be switching directions a little bit. If you want on your file, just delete everything that's in green here because we're not actually going to use it anymore. So we're still going to get it to print a number from 1 to 10. And maybe I think for organization, I'll just comment everything out here so we can kind of start fresh. So I'm going to reuse the same parts typed here, but I do want to make kind of a while loop. So what we're going to say is that same first line, we're going to say, print, please guess a number from 1 to 10. If you guess correctly, you win. So we're just trying to, again, set up some instructions for the user because they are going to put in some input here, and they need to know what to do properly. So we are going to assume they are going to put in a number here. They could put in a word like Mr. Rose again, and that might break the program, but we're just kind of assuming for now that they're going to do good things. Okay, so we are going to now put them inside of a while loop. So what that's going to do is repeatedly get them to guess until they get the number correctly. And we don't know how many times it's going to take them to get it correct, right? So we need to make sure that it will run as many times as it needs to. And that is often what you see with a game, right? You play the game until you win. So the game will have to keep looping, have to keep checking for things. But then if you beat that level, then it needs to know to stop exactly when it happened. Someone might take 1 minute on that first level. Someone might take half an hour. The game needs to adapt and keep running until the level is beaten or until they stop. So we're going to build in that kind of basic while loop here. So with a while loop has a condition. Okay, just like an if statement. As long as that condition is true, the loop will continue to run. Once the condition is false, the loop finishes. Okay, just to organize here, I'm just going to delete everything. I was trying to keep it on the screen, but we don't really need it anymore. So I'm just going to try to keep it simple here. Okay, so we're first going to take their initial guess. So it is going to be a number. So I'm going to call this variable their guess, and it's going to be an int because we do want to convert it. And we're going to see the input inside of here again. So input. Okay, so again, there's two layers. The user's going to input. That's going to pause the program. But then we're immediately converting that input to a number, just telling Python, hey, this isn't a word, this is a number. And then we're going to store that as guess. That's the name of our variable. And then we're going to create our while loop. So this is going to be a code block. So just like how we had if, and then a condition, and then a colon, and then indenting. The while loop uses the word while. We have a condition, and then a colon. So we want to choose a number. So let's say that the correct number, let's say correct is, let's say 3. That is going to be the actual guess. Okay? What we're going to say here is as long as the guess is not equal to 3, we want this thing to keep running. Okay? So how we write that condition here is while guess is, so how we do a not equals is we write an exclamation mark and an equal sign. Okay, so this is common in computer language. the exclamation point means not. In computers. So this translates to means not equal to. Okay, so while the guess is not equal to the correct guess. So if they guess 2, that's not going to be equal to 3. So we're going to keep running that in. So we're going to, on the inside, if they didn't get the guess correct, we just want to ask them to guess again. So since we asked for a guess at the beginning, we are going to then assume that if they're still in the loop, if they got into the loop, then they got the answer wrong. So we'll say print, sorry, that guess was incorrect. And let's add a new line. So we'll say new line, please guess again. And then we'll do the exact same thing. So I'm actually going to copy this line up here. We just want them to guess again. So we're just going to ask, we're going to say guess is now equal to the new input. So it's going to pause again in the program. And then it's going to try and go again. So you can see that line here that we talked about yesterday. This marks off the code block. You can see when the while loop is starting and finishing based off of how this line looks. If I don't indent properly, this guess now is outside of the while loop block because the while loop block is only from here to here. So you got to make sure that everything you want included inside is indented. So this is going to keep running until the guess is the correct answer. I know the correct answer is going to be 3, so I have an escape route when I'm running this program. And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to add one extra statement. I guess I put the... I'm going to move this comment up here. I typed kind of in the wrong spot. There. That should have been before the while loop. Now, at the end of the while loop, that would mean that they got it correct. So the only way they can get out of this while loop is if the guess is actually equal to correct. So we're just going to put out a winning message. So we're going to say print, you got it. Okay, so we're about to run this, but just to, again, follow the structure here. The first thing that we're seeing is this instruction telling the user what to do. Please guess a number from 1 to 10. If you guess correctly, you win. So we take their initial guess. It is a number, so we do want to make sure that we take that input and tell Python, hey, this needs to be a number because we're going to be comparing it to this number 3. So the guess is from the user, and we already have an answer here, which is 3. Then, if they got that correct, if they guess 3 right away, when we get to this while loop, it's going to say, well, this is only going to run if the guess was not correct. If you guess 3 right away, it will actually skip over the whole while loop and just say you got it. Done. If we guess something other than 3, then this condition is going to say, oh, that is true. The guess was not correct. So it's going to print, sorry, that guess was incorrect. New line, please guess again. And then we try again. And then we just get stuck in that loop. Okay, so let's run this and see what it looks like. So we press play. Please guess a number from 1 to 10. Let's just try and guess correctly first, so we skip the loop. 3. You got it. Program over. Okay, now let's run it again to see the while loop working. Please guess a number from 1 to 10. Let's try 4. So 4 should trigger that this is not correct, which means that while loop, this condition is true, that the guess is not correct. So I'm going to press enter. Sorry, that guess was incorrect. Please guess again. Let's try 5. That's still not correct, right? 5 is not equal to 3, so the while loop is going to keep running. We could go 6, 7, 1, 3. You got it. Okay, so that while loop will keep running as long as this condition, whatever this is, evaluates to be true. Okay, so if the guess is not equal to the correct guess, run this again. Once the guess is equal to the correct guess, then that loop doesn't run and we go further on in the program. Okay, so I'll just show you quickly before we finish up here that we've been assuming that the user is going to put in something nice, like an actual number. If the user is being, trying to break the program, they could put in something like Mr. Rose again. And if you try and run that for guessing a number, we are going to get an error. So we try to turn whatever the input is into a number, but if we put in an actual word like Mr. Rose, Python's going to say, I can't turn Mr. Rose into a number. I'm sorry, this program is over. It's getting an error. So we are assuming that the user is going to play along nicely and follow the instructions, but with the basic coding that we're doing right now, we're not going to be coding things that are strong enough that the user can try and break things, then they can't. We're just going to assume they're going to play along. Okay, so that is how a while loop will work. So you can play around with this this code and change it however you'd like, just to get a feel for things. So please give that a try, and tomorrow you'll have an activity that is going to use all of these components. You can follow along with another video if you want to, if you don't want to kind of try to work with pseudocode, or if you're feeling like you want a bit more of a challenge, you'll have some pseudocode that you can try and build the game that we're putting together tomorrow just from the pseudocode, and you write your own steps. Okay, but that is going to be it for today. I hope you enjoy your day.